A few days ago, I was compiling some pricing sections for the component library that I'm building for Webstudio, and I bumped into this Deel pricing page, which was interesting at the time. So I was trying to see how I can build this with the native features that we have in Webstudio. So what I have here is a basic structure. It's just nothing much. I just went on and pre-added these elements in advance so that I don't waste time recreating them. So the goal is to reproduce this interaction. We'll see, depending on time, if I'll be able to like implement everything else that's below here. But the main goal is to get at least something that's close to this in Webstudio. So the first thing we have, obviously, standard box. We have tabs. We don't necessarily need this, but we have tabs here, which is like a native component. We have our tab list. Inside our tab list, the only thing that I've done so far is to introduce a box. Again, I'll show why later on, and another box that is going to hold the contents that we have here at the top of these tabs. Then in another box, we have the tab triggers, and in each tab trigger, we have an icon and text, an icon and text. I might have to wrap this inside another box. I'll see as I build. So the first step is, since we only have like a section, then a container, which is like the standard structure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the container here so that we have at least a max width of some sort. And I'm just going to make this full width. So set on auto. Let's put this on full width, 100%. We have our box size. It's saying size large, which is fine. This text that we have here inside, we want it to be maybe half the size. I know there is size MD, so the MD should do fine. We can put auto on the margins, which should get us close to what we're looking for. Then for this section, from the component library that I'm building, I have a token eyebrow, which basically just sets like basic style for the eyebrow. For the headings, we have tokens heading 1. I think this works. For the type, I'm not so sure if I can have this, but let's see. Text, no, I don't have them. I'll just set it here now. I think this is 18 pixels. I'll see if there are variables for this. Let's see, font height. Let's do font height 4, maybe. Then maybe foreground, instead of the foreground primary, we have the muted version as well as the muted version here. So that gives us the structure that we're looking for here. Let's see, maybe we need a little bit of spacing. We can either add spacing here, the margin bottom, let's see. Let's do size 3. Looks decent. The idea is not to get like a pixel to pixel, but looks decent. I'm happy with that. The next step is to try and style these tabs here to look close to something like this. So let's see what we have here. So we have a tab trigger. I'm not going to style anything on the tab trigger itself because I want to use it to set pseudo elements, which is basically going to be the background and this element. So because of that, I need something else to hold the styles of the parent. So let's wrap this in a box, then throw in the text as well. I don't know why I'm struggling there. Okay, so now we have our tab trigger. Now we have our box which is acting as a wrapper for the icon and the text. So for what we need, we just need it to be center aligned with maybe a mean width. Sorry, a max width. Let's do a max width of 8 frames, maybe 8, maybe 10. So for our tab, for our trigger rep, for our trigger rep, let's say trigger rep. Let's say for trigger rep, we have a maximum of 10 rems. Let's see if I have a size that's close to that. I think it's 12. No, maybe let's do 16. No, 12. 12 is fine. Then 100% width. Let's see, this could be a little bit small. Let's do 16. On the tab trigger, let's put a max width of size maybe 12, which is 10 rems. Then we can make this 100%. So I'm not going to add any further styles on top of the tab trigger itself. I'm going to add everything else on the rep, which is going to be the first thing. We need flex. So I'm going to put flex. We need column aligned to the center. And this looks somewhat decent. Okay, then we have this text, which is basically trigger. If I can spell trigger label. Sorry, my naming convention might not be the best, but yeah, I just want to get through this as fast as I can. Trigger label. Our trigger label has a font, which is this one. Let's say maybe the size is size. Let's maybe put 1 rem. Perfect. Then there is spacing here. The spacing that we have 14, 4, 16. So let's add that. We're adding it to the trigger rep instead of the trigger. I'll show you why in a sec. So this will be 4 pixels. We have 12 here. No, this is it 12 or 16? It's actually 12. So 12, then 16 here, which is size 3. This is size. There is no size for this one, which is fine. We can just leave it as a pixel value. 12. So now we have our trigger. We have trigger rep styled. We need maybe a gap of, let's say, XS. Might be a little bit too big, but that's okay. So now we have it somewhat close to what we want. So this is the active trigger. This is the trigger content that we have. That is perfect. Okay, perfect. So the next thing is we want the border radius. So we want our border radius to be, let's say, radius 3. We need to remove this here. Be unset. And unset on the bottom. That should give us somewhat of a close structure of what we're looking for. Then, yeah, this should be it. This should be, let's convert this to a token, tab trigger, so that I can reuse it. So we now have our tab trigger with some of the styles that we need on the tab trigger, and the rep with the rest of the elements that we cannot add on the trigger itself. So the next step is probably just copying over the token. So this goes here, not necessarily here, but we need to wrap this inside a box. Then we need text on the box. Just reorder these. And now that we have our tab trigger, I need the rep as well. Let me just name them accordingly so that I don't get confused. Okay, perfect. So now we have our tabs, which is fine for now. Yeah, I think this works. So now what we need is to find a way to add, let's say maybe let's add hover, maybe. Yeah, let's try that. So we have our hover, which goes on this one, tab trigger, hover. And then we need background. It's going to be white slightly, which is nice. Of course, we can't see it now because of the background, which is fine. Then what's inactive states? I'll probably add this with CSS because I don't think I have access, because what I actually want to style when it's active is the tab rep, not the actual trigger itself. I'll explain in a second why. I think this is it. So now we have our tab list with all the information that we need. And then we have our triggers working perfectly. That's fine. Okay, so the next step is to add attributes to these elements. I need to use these attributes. I'm trying to avoid to use classes, but it's pretty much the same thing. So on this trigger, I'm just going to maybe say OX trigger. I don't know why I use OX as a prefix, but hey, it works. OX BG color. We'll come back to this one in a second. We need to create the same OX trigger and OX BG data, BG color, sorry. Okay, now that we have our attributes, so from what I've inspected when I last published like a similar project, is that there is like an active state that's triggered, not an active state per se, but there is like an area active attribute that's added to the tab that's currently active. So we're going to use that to sort of like display the color that we want, and probably the background color as well. So for this one uses, let's see, on the tab trigger, let's start with the active state. There's no active state. Focus on visible component state active. It's white by default, which is fine. I think we can work with that. Let's now add the background colors. So to add the background colors, what I noticed that I can make this, let's say this is yellow, blue, purple. I think there are variables in craft that we can use, but let's see. So for this tab trigger, the first one, we just add it as a variable, which is var. The last time that I tried this, it crashed, so I'm going to do this instead. Var blue 1. Then I'm going to do var yellow 1 for the second one. Then var purple for the third one. That should give us all the colors that we want. The other one, the last one, I think it's blue as well. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now that we have our colors and the triggers that we want, the next step is to now start with the embed with the HTML embed. We need to add our styles here. So let's do styles. Okay. So the first thing is to select our trigger. So the first thing is we have OX trigger. So OX trigger, and we want the current active tab. So that will be ARIA selected. In this case, it's going to be true. And I need to spell style correctly. Okay. And what we want to do is to have the before element, the before pseudo element, and we have our content, which is going to be an empty string. Content, yes, empty string. Then we have our width. In this case, it's going to be 100%. Our height is going to be 100% as well. And then we have our background color. In this case, our background color is going to be BG color or transparent as a fallback. Then we have our position absolutes, position absolutes, position absolute with an inset of 0, just to make sure that it's top 0, left 0, right 0, bottom 0, and a z index of 0, which might not be necessary, but we'll see. And then for the specific color that we want, I'm not so sure. I could potentially put it there, but let me just do this. Let me copy this and paste it here, and we have our OX BG color. We want the before element, before pseudo element, of course, and our background color, we want it to be in this case we want to take it from the attribute. So remember the attribute that we have, which is OXBG color. So that will be, I think this is the syntax. Let's see if I can still pull it off. That will be OXBG color, which is going to have a type of color. Color, nice, that's a good sign. And then as a fallback, it's going to be transparent. I think, yeah, that's the syntax, which is nice, which means we're pulling the color from the attribute. And then that should be it for now. Yeah, this should be it. Okay, let's close this for now. So the next step is to add a position on the tab list, so that we contain the element inside, the pseudo element inside this top part, which is this part of the section. So we go back to our styles and do that. Position relative. Perfect. So now that we have our position relative, the text is there just to show that this is changing. You can see, of course, there's still text below it. So we just need to make sure that that's also, let's say position, note, we need this to be static. We need this to be relative. So that's always on the top. Then remember when I separated the trigger and the trigger rep, this is where, so we have our pseudo element here. So if we put position relative here, it won't work, because then it encapsulate the element inside. We want to break out of the natural flow. So now on our trigger, we want to make this again position relative. I'm quite sure there's an easier way of doing this, but hey, we get what you get, and hopefully it works. Okay, we have an issue. Let's see. Okay, let's put a z index of 1. Okay, stays on top. So now our switch works. But now what we want is to pull the active set from the element which is the trigger, and I believe it has a state of active, but let's just publish and see if that's the case so that I know which attributes I'm targeting. Okay, perfect. It's done publishing. Let's preview. Okay, so on the front end, we have this as the active one, so we just need to check. So this is the element. So we already have area selected, but I want we can definitely pass that as well. We can try it, but the one that I wanted was this one. But let's try the selected one. It should work. So an example would be, let's see if I still remember, but so an example would be while it's on our OX trigger. So when OX trigger has, let's say, area selected is equal to true. We want to target the direct descendant, which is the div, I think in this case, and we want to make it background color of, let's say, white. I know there's a variable for this, but hey, who's watching? Perfect. Yes, worked. Just like that, it worked. Okay, cool. So this is sorted now. Maybe let's do this. Foreground. No, we can use the background primary, which I doubt is white. Secondary. Damn it. Anyway, we can still come back to white. Just hard code it. It's fine. Okay, perfect. So now we lose our border radius. It's super easy to fix. We just come on the trigger, we slap an overflow hidden, and that fixes it. Okay, perfect. So now we have this part sorted. Now what we want is to try and get this element. So the easiest way that I could get this to work, one, we could potentially upload like an SVG, add an SVG and change like the current color. That's one way. Or we can use an after element with with a clip path. So that's the option that I'm going to go with. So for the clip path, it's going to be a similar process. So for the clip path, it's going to be, we have our OX trigger, which is the element that we want. And we want it when it's selected, area selected. We want it to be the true one. I'm quite sure there's a better way of doing this, but let's see. We want the after pseudo element. We want to have a content of an empty string, just like the first one, with a position of absolute, just like the second one. We need our width. For some reason, if I use percentages on this one, it acts a little bit weird. So I'm going to use, let's say, 120 VW. And we have our height, which is going to be, let's say, 100 VH. 100 VH. And then we need our background color. So because I'm too lazy, maybe lazy, maybe not, but I'm too lazy to go and add another attribute. Let me do this. Let me use a color mix on this one. So it's going to be color mix. in sRGB, we're going to take that attribute, and we're going to, let's see if I still remember the syntax. It's transparent 70%. Let's try with black, maybe 5%. I don't know if this actually works, but let's see. With the clip path, I have the clip path saved somewhere. I just generated from the SVG that they have here, so it's practically the same thing. With a clip path, then we have a Z index of 0 again, with a top of 0 for now. Let's say 50%. Yeah, with the left of 50%. 50%, yes, like this. And to bring the element to the center, I might have screwed up something. Or X trigger area selected is true. We need after element content absolute. That's fine, because it should be showing by now. Okay, let me just finish it up. We need a transform. We need to translate an X. Let's bring it back by 50% to center it to itself. What did I do wrong here? We have our height. We have, could be a spelling, but let's see. Area selected, OX trigger. After. That's correct. Background color. Let me do this. I think it's this one. Oh yeah, it was that one. So I might have screwed up something on the color mix here. So we have our color mix in sRGB. It's an attribute that's taking our BG color with type of color, then transparent 70%. Oh, screwed up something. Yes, this one. Forgot a bracket. Okay, cool. So now we have our element that's slightly a bit darker, and we also need to translate its y. 50%, -50% to bring it to its center. Okay, perfect. So now we have that that darker part of the section. I'm not so sure if I use the correct. Let's see. Let's do 90 VW. Let's do 95. We're just going to tweak it until we get it right. 70, maybe 80, 90. That looks about it. Let's see. Maybe instead of 50, we do 25. Maybe 0. Trying to get it to a point where it looks close. So it looks like this. We have it like this. Let's preview. Yeah, I guess we get what we get. Okay, so we have, let me do 0 here, 0%, translate Y, let's say 10, or even never translate it, it's fine. Might actually, I think this works. Okay, perfect. So we have our element where we need it. max width, let's just slip in a max width of, let's say, maybe 80 VW, sorry, maybe 90. I don't know if we even need that, but it's fine. So that gives us the element that we're looking for. So now we have it here, and with our index of 0, everything looks okay. Let's close this one. Let's figure out a way to hide this again. It should be hidden from here. Lovely. So tab list hidden. So now when you switch, it does this. Of course, it's not the same colors. We can always play around with the color mix. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not going to sing around with it, but yeah, this is the effect. So I'm just going to leave it from here. If you wish to continue working on this, I think I will just let me just remove some elements. I think I'll just leave it as it is, and yeah, I'll publish it as it is. Then feel free to clone it and tinker around, maybe finish up the design, touch it up nice, and yeah, hope this was helpful. Cheers.